Mr. Stern.
I'd just like to finish in saying I understand what everyone's saying. I believe the right way is to build a path, a foundation, where we have, maybe these aren't the best three ideas, I believe they are. And I believe they are built on safety. The rental inspection is a safety program. We want houses safer for people who are going to rent houses, so that they're painted, the roofs are better, the exterior is acceptable to the city. That is a safety issue. And if we make a little bit of profit off of doing the right thing and bringing up the property values, then that's what we should do. And you know, the other issue with the traffic, that is almost immediate income. You know, the startup cost keeps being brought up, but that's almost immediate income. The mayor's court, yeah, that's down the road. I mean, there's 23 mayor's courts in Cuyahoga and Lake County. Are they going away soon? I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball, but there's 23 of them. I mean, that number should resonate. That's a lot of courts. They're going to go to 23 cities just in our little area and say, oh, you're all going to lose your court. I highly doubt it. The one thing is, I support everyone in this room, and I want what's best. And I foresee that if we pass reciprocity, and God forbid, maybe, just possibly, it is voted out by the public, then what do we do? Now you're going to have to lay off people. I mean, this is two paths. We got to make a decision, and the decision is we could take the safe route, the long route. We could take steps to a future that has a foundation, or we could pass reciprocity, and if the wrong thing happens, we have just dug a hole for the city, and that's pretty much my comment. I think we need to go in the right direction, the safe way, the way that we're going to get respect back from the citizens. The citizens' respect is the best thing we could possibly have. Money is secondary. We need their respect. They'll support us in the long run. When we gain that back, then we'll get a levy passed. If we do something against their will, we'll never get a levy passed.
My question to Mr. Zern is this. We stand to lose 3 more firemen. I want to hear a solid foundation where the money's going to come from to keep those 3 firemen in this city. And it's not, you need something now. Your plans are long term. And as far as anybody going against them, any one of those plans can be signed on a referendum and thrown out. Any one of them. But in the meantime, we have 3 firemen we are going to lose. How do we keep them? Ms. Schindel, do we have the money in the budget to keep 3 firemen?
No. There's no money in the budget.
Mr. Haeflin.
The other thing I wanted to mention was that, come back to me again. I'm trying to think.
Mr. Pledge.
You said there were 23 mayor's courts in Ohio?
No, Cuyahoga and Lake County. I got the list. There's hundreds of them in this area.
That's right. That's all I want to make sure. Just checking out the number.
Okay.
Mr. Haeflin.
If we end up not doing this, we'll probably go into, eventually we could be going into fiscal watch. And then if we go into fiscal emergency, and if the state were to come in, could they actually tell us that we're going to make you do the full credit? Could that be a possibility?
Mm-hmm.
You were on the state.
I served on that state board 10 years ago, and I'll tell you the first thing that they said is you will look into reciprocity. Instead of doing reciprocity at that time, we started charging the residents a garbage fee, which raised $990,000 a year.
Which covered the cost
of the
garbage removal. It was
removal.
still not a moneymaker. It was a wash. I mean, it wasn't,
The state, you go into fiscal watch, the state will come in. You go into fiscal emergency, the state will take over the finances of the city, just as they did in East Cleveland. You can stay in fiscal watch or fiscal emergency like East Cleveland did for upwards of 15 years. 15 years they stayed. So, Chief Wright.
What are you talking? 1981 was the last levy passed here?
82.
82 and the stadium
1982.
was built in
2001.
Okay. I mean, you're talking 20 years levies before the stadium. I would go back to, I think Mayor DiLiberto was popular enough at the time that he could have passed a levy for the stadium, and I think we all wish he would have. I don't think he had the time because he put himself under secret time constraints, but that was probably the only point of, since I've been a resident here for 25 years, that the atmosphere was right for a levy to go forth. I don't know what happened in the 80s, and but since 92, since I've been here, I don't get it. The people I know and the people I talk to, the people that Chief Whittington and I converse with at football games and stuff, and when we talk to them, they really seem to get it. And the ones that didn't get it, after reasonable conversation, they do, because we're comparing apples to apples. We're not saying we want to be Dublin, Ohio. We want to be, places out of reach. We're talking about we want to be, you guys want services like Willowick residents do and Meadow residents in Willowick. And we're using comparisons of East Cleveland and Maple Heights and things like that. None of the people who live in this community, I think, want to go to those communities or are aspiring to be in the communities that they're paying an equal tax to.
I guess I'll ask the mayor, and it is his ultimate responsibility on how he runs his city.
Well, what I've said.
Would
Go ahead.
he consider forming a separate committee from the finance committee to look into these options? Can you give him a timeline?
I think what we need to do, if we're going to go with the three options that Councilman Zern brought up, and as much as I don't want to say this, is if we're not going to move forward with that, I asked for police and fire levy, and we didn't want to do it for August. We're going to have to put a levy on in a special in May or March or whenever the next
It's in May.
Whenever the next primary will be. I talked to Councilman Zern before. Again, we can form a task force, and that could drag on. Steve Komanjansky did go on his own to Columbus for mayor's court. So if we went with the mayor's court and we want to do some informational on that, I would ask Mr. Komanjansky to maybe lead that group to look at that. I've talked to Vicki Stevens, which is the mayor of Perry Village. They have a mayor's court. I was going to sit down with her. As the chief said, Willoughby Hills is a whole different animal. Willoughby Hills is, and all of us that live around here, I've lived in Eastlake for 35 years. 271, everyone knows. Though they still generate all that money, Willoughby Hills is, the police are going to be there. As the chief says, do we have the employee to sit on Route 2 and 91? Are we doing it for safety or are we doing it for revenue? We've had the discussions on the cameras. But again, we can bring the people in and talk to them. The cameras, when it's council and the people over here already with me on council, we got a backlash about the red light cameras. The red light cameras in the state of Ohio obviously have been, I looked at one, cities like Garfield Heights, and they take it to the ballot. And they all failed. What do we think if things go to the ballot like that, if we think they're going to pass? They're not. I have the confidence. I would love, and again, I'm glad this is a bigger group. I'm glad that people are talking out there. But again, what do we want to be as a city? We continue, the way I look at it, the way we talk in staff is the problem is the majority of our residents don't see that we're dysfunctional. They see that they call our fire department and they're there. They call the police department, then they're there. Though we'll get 150 calls a day that there's a snowstorm and yelling at us about why we didn't get to your street, they're still plowed within the day. So what have our residents really lost besides the elephant in the room of the leaf pickup? I still, 2 years later, get yelled at about we're not vacuuming off the tree lawn. They're not worried about not getting a rescue squad. They're not worried about getting the police over there. I punished them, me personally, by eliminating the vacuuming of the leaves. And I'm willing to take that beating. I've taken the beating for 2 years, and as soon as fall comes, I'll take it again. But out of everything we cut, that is still the biggest yell I get, is that we don't vacuum off the tree line. But we pay, through our garbage fees, for yard waste pickup. So, again, I get especially that I penalize the seniors. Well, the city of Mentor has never picked up leaves. They have seniors just like we do. But again, they'll pay to have a landscaper come clean their lawn. Where, again, and we said this afterwards, the people that are hiring people to clean their lawns, they're paying $300 for the year, where the levy would only cost them $150. But again, we don't want to give the city any more money, and I get it, and I live with it. And again, the residents that call and yell at me on a daily basis, I don't take it personal. I say what I've been saying. You know what? I'm not upset that you're telling me you're not going to ever vote for a levy, but don't be upset that I'm cutting services. Again, these guys live it every day. I live it that, I show up to the fires, I show up to the crime scenes, no matter what time of the day it is. They're all, again, 24/7. I'll throw it out there. I took the pay cut because I thought that if the people see the top person allegedly in this city gets it, that maybe our residents will get it. And we can say that, that we deserve someone better. I know the whole discussion of the city managers out there. I don't have a problem with the city manager. City manager in Mentor makes $160,000. We're going to pay a city manager $160,000. And the difference of a city manager coming in also is, in Mentor, obviously, all the people have all the resources to help them. You're not going to get people in here. Look at what the hard time we're having to try to hire a person making $24 an hour. That's not enough. Or $18 an hour because we reduced going from the inspector. Now we wanted a maintenance person that doesn't want to come here. I'm good with everything that's been thrown out there. I'm good with hey, we want to try to go to a part-time mayor. Let's do that. If someone could come in here and be the mayor part-time, God bless them. So, I hear the things that are out there. I hear the things that they think we should change. But in the end, we have to help ourselves eventually. And if we continue to choose to say we don't want to help ourselves or we don't want any more tax increases, we're going to fail. What I've said is, and people, and I've talked to Carol Ann, we're not close to fiscal watch. We're not close to fiscal emergency. I look at it, it's a two-edged fail. We fail if we don't try to do any tax increase. We fail and we can cop out and say, the state's coming in and they're going to say all the things that all of us at this table don't want to, as the chief says, make the tough decision. The state will make it for us. And our cop out will be, well, the state's telling us we got to reduce it 5%. Or the state's saying, lay off 5 more people. And then we can all sit back and it's a failure. From me, from all of us in this room that says, we decided to take the easy route and let the state come in and tell us this. Again, I've talked to Carol Ann because it comes out there that we're fiscal watch or fiscal emergency. We're not there. But we're a few disasters that, again, the roof falls in and hopefully doesn't fall on my head or any of the employees' heads in here.
You get a part-time mayor.
But, that's out there. When it rains in here, we're all looking up because of the noises we're hearing, and the HVAC in this thing has never been good. I guess the only plus is this place is paid off in 17, so in 18 we'll have another $300,000 in the general fund because this will finally be paid off. But again, there's no amount of money that we can bring in, and when we talk about getting trust from residents, anything we do is, I'm not going to say it's a Band-Aid, but all the money we generate, or as Councilman Hafley said, we start splitting up where the money goes. The problem is we're so deep in the hole of repairs especially, we're not going to be able to show our residents that they do the reciprocity and show that everyone doubles or triples what they're paying in property tax. there's nothing new to show. There's nothing to say, hey, all of a sudden we're going to have this great recreation department. We're going to have reading programs. We're going to have this program. We're going to have that program. That's not going to happen. What we're doing here will stabilize the city, period. You'll see nothing new. You'll see none of the parks being helped unless we get grants. We just got another grant we're working on. We got the grant for the kiddie pool. You know, these 3 years, the pool has been open. It hasn't cost the city anything. EPAL went in the community center. Didn't cost us anything. You know, we lease out City Hall to the library, and between their 2% and the first year that they're here, that's $62,000 we didn't have before. So we're trying to look outside the box and try to get other revenues. We're trying to do things. One of the things that will be on the ballot is the Croatian Hall that we're looked at. So we don't want to increase our taxes, but we want everything like the other cities have, and that's not going to happen. So one of the reasons we were trying to work with the Croatian Home is to make the area look a little better. You know, I respect the people that are against it. I respect the people that want to put it on a referendum. But we've worked for 7 months butting heads to put something on the referendum, and when it comes out and you see all the language, people are going to be going like this when you go to vote on what's on that ballot. And how we're going to explain it is beyond me. But we will put something out there and asking our residents to vote yes on us working with the Croatian Hall. So we've been trying to do everything without using tax money to keep certain things open in the city. And the problem is the police, the fire, the service, the building. There is no one that's going to come in and say, hey, let me donate this much money so you guys can run normal. It's not going to happen. So we either help ourselves or we continue down this trail, as the chiefs say, and cop out.
Mr. Rubentino.
So, reciprocity, and we go forward with the other three. Is there some reason that reciprocity can't be pulled down the road if this manages to work out, so to say? Or is reciprocity locked in once we do that?
No, I mean,
And we can't move forward with all this. I'm telling you, we're not going to make it in waiting 3 years. It's just not going to happen.
well, you're exactly right. I think that's what Laura was in essence saying. I mean, and what the mayor closed with, I mean, this isn't a legal decision, but you're talking about the difference here between providing the basics that the residents aren't going to experience the benefit from, or providing something that's great. So reciprocity and then looking at these other sources to make things great for the residents is the ideal, right? That's how the residents are going to feel something special, because the reciprocity is going to fill that gap as best as we can to make sure everything's safe. And if these other opportunities have the value that some people think they do, then you can provide something great. But Eastlake's a community where the residents want the government to provide these types of quality of life for them, the parks and all these types of things. Other communities, the households themselves provide those things for their family a lot of times. This is where government is supposed to work best for the city. Small cities like this is where the government's supposed to work good. It's supposed to spend money to provide quality of life that some of the household incomes can't. So the reciprocity fills the gap to make sure everything's safe, and these other opportunities maybe provide us an opportunity to provide something special. And that's not a legal issue, but there's certainly a middle ground there that does both.
Just one quick comment. This city has used reciprocity before. We've actually changed reciprocity for, I believe it was a year or more, maybe a year and a half in, was it 2001? Remember when it was?
It was a little after that.
It was two.
Yeah.
So we've actually adjusted reciprocity, brought it down, and then brought it back up again. So we do have a history of doing that when we've had tough times, and that was right when things started coming off the hill. Do you remember when was it, Joe?
I think it was in 2 or 3. It was a 1/4%.
1/4%.
That's what it was.
So
just to let everybody know, we've used this as a way to try to stabilize in the past. I believe we were somewhat successful in doing that. When we got that stabilization, we adjusted it again. So kind of that's what, along what Nick was saying, there is chances that, and we've done it, you have to use it in the past.
Anybody else? I think I'm going to go out of turn here. I think I'm going to allow the public to speak before we pull the committee. Is there any objections? No? All right, at this point, I'll open it up to the public. 3 minutes, 30 minutes total. Yeah. And then please address all comments to the chair. Nothing personal, okay? Need your name and address if you wish to speak. Anybody? Name and address.
Jessica Terrasano, 34186 Walmer Drive. First, I just want to commend the committee, especially those in the minority. I know it's hard to address attacks and address people's questions. I think people are brave to bring up alternatives. The only thing that I really want to mention, and I mean I've stated this on social media, so I'm sure people have read it, but I wish that there was some sort of numbers put down to justify, why you're doing it 1% instead of 2%, or 1% instead of, reducing it by 0.25%. I think that Mike Zara mentioned due diligence, and I think that that's something that this committee could do a little bit more of before making a final decision.
Anybody else?
I think it's ironic.
Name and address. Name and address.
Oh, Ted Barris, 36706 Lakehurst Drive. I think it's kind of ironic that you mentioned red light cameras, because several years ago, Kim and I were on a city financial task force. And that was one of our recommendations. And the previous mayor and council just shut it down. So it's come around again. And I remember at the last council meeting, Carol Ann mentioned that Massillon is at the bottom of the Moody ratings. They just eliminated their reciprocity. So I wonder how that's working out. I'm sure there's other cities that have gone to that same measure. So you're going to be unpopular, but like the mayor says, this is the job you walked into. You knew what the financial situation is in this city. So, and I don't know what's going to take to wake the residents up. I found it interesting that at the last council meeting, Chief Whittington went on to what I call an impassioned rant. About smooth. It was a positive good rant about what he's been talking about, the situation in his department. And a reporter from the News Herald was there. And I don't remember seeing any report in the News Herald about what he said or what the Chief Wright said. How is the residents going to find out what's going on? They don't probably care. Or they're just oblivious. I don't know. Now you do have the Eastlake Gazette. You could put it in there. It's just, I don't know. Maybe people will respond. I don't know. But it's a tragic situation that we're facing. Thank you.
Didn't we? Just real quick,
Mr. Clymer.
I hate to cut off, but maybe it might have been with Mike Slocum and again with Carol Ann. I mean, we've done charts and charts and charts to address Mr. Vasano's question, showing different levels of revenue for all different sorts of rollbacks or increasing taxes. I mean, there's dozens of those charts. So to say on social media or anywhere that the city hasn't done that, it's been done as far back as Mike Slocum with charts showing what rolling back 25%, rolling back 50%, and all those numbers do.
Name and address.
Jessica Terrasano, 34186 Walmer Drive. I mean, I guess my question wasn't, what does the numbers do, or what can $2.4 million buy? My question is, why 2.4 instead of 4.8, or why 2.4 instead of, just $500,000? I guess I just haven't heard from council. I mean, Chief Whittington, I know he has talked about these 3 firefighters that he needs in a roof. That's maybe $350,000. I don't know what happens with the other $2 million that we would have extra, but I'd like to know, where that $2 million would go specifically.
There's definitely no extra. $2 million. I'm sorry.
Mr. Rubentino, go ahead.
Go back to mine. I gave you a figure of over $1 million and just repairs at a bare minimum to buildings, to vehicles that we're driving around, rusted vehicles that we work on every single day to get them on the road. I mean, every single day. So that's what you're asking. From my point of view, I can give you over $1 million in just trying to get us stable, not even nowhere near above water. It's just so we're treading. And I'm telling you, that catastrophe is coming. And I don't know if anybody wants to hear that or wants to believe it, but these are things that I'm bringing up. We got a loader that can't hold the bucket up. So when we're working, we got mechanics, we got truck drivers driving these vehicles, they're getting in a loader, and as soon as they pick that bucket up, it's falling down. We're waiting for someone to get killed out here. And I don't want to use that as an example, but that's reality. The reality is the equipment that we're working with, and I'm telling you, the roofs, the air conditioning units, the heating units at the Taft Senior Center, everywhere around here, it's very easily I can give you $1 million, just a blink of an eye.
We had to order people to stop using the salt bin because we were afraid it was going to fall over.
Well, we knew it was going to fall over.
I mean both chiefs have
the
been
windows on his
ring
buildings, and I know for 10 years that I've been looking at them when I was with recreation and that entity of the work that I was doing. And I think he's underestimated $60,000. That was 3 or 4 years ago. I'm sure that's at $85,000. Those come down. Not only we're looking at damaged property, but we're looking at potential loss of life. And this is that building over the roof. I know I'd say it's raining in there, but one of these days the panel's going to come down because there's nothing to hold it up. It's just they're just at that point. And I think to find what you're asking on my end alone, I could give it to you without any blink of an eye. I could really honestly give you that, and that's taking care of my department as far as buildings, land, and vehicles that that we require to try and get by. I've been trying to get a loader for 3 years that I've been here because of the condition of the loader. I mean, it's just we're in a sad state, and I just don't think we have the time to wait. Are we lucky and we go 3 years and nothing happens? It's possible. I don't think the odds are on our side. We had the 2010 rainstorm. We had that rainstorm there. We're lucky we had the guys we had. If we had that today, that July rainstorm, we're looking at weeks before people are going to get their garbage picked up, before they're going to get any type of assistance. If the tornado, the trees are coming down. What we've been dealing with is everything's a Band-Aid. We're stretched to the thinnest. And again, the safety forces are probably worse condition than I am, because we could blow stuff off and say, well, we're just not getting it today. We'll get it out of the road and we'll come back and get it later. But safety forces can't do that.
Okay. So let me finish with the public portion.
I just want to add one thing, if I could real quickly.
Go ahead, Chief.
During budget hearings and then a subsequent finance committee, I presented $2 million from the fire department, and I think that go along with what she was asking for. So there's 3 right there, and I'm sure Chief Wright's.
Does Chief Wright have a number?
I don't have a specific number because I've never been asked to come up with one, but basically if you move into a house that is on the verge of having a lot of building violations and you get an influx of money, you're going to have places to spend that to get that up to where it should be. And then it would be up to council to review that on a monthly, semi-annual, annual basis to say, okay, now we have those things repaired. Now we're on a decent maintenance program. Now our roofs or our infrastructure is of a decent amount that we can roll this back. Maybe we don't need the employees we had 5, 10, 15 years ago, but these things are only going to be more costly if they're ignored.
Just for the record also, so the public knows, any expenditure over $12,500 has to be approved by the council.
Me?
Name and address, please.
Jim Brinstead, 139 Christine Court. Yes, Mayor, I'm the one who calls you. I think her point over there was, I just want to see on paper what 2.5 million is going to get. $1 million is a very round number. It could be 1.3, it could be 750. $2 million is a much bigger round number. It could be 2.4, and that could be all of it. So for the public, is 2.4 going to get you close out of the hole, which it doesn't sound like? And if it's not going to get you out of the hole, which it doesn't sound like, how much out of the hole are you still going to be?
Well,
The second part of that, What does a special levy cost versus if you were to put it up in the fall? Because special levies cost
Probably about $15,000 to $18,000.
and versus the fall levy.
The
It's
fall
like
levy
8 to
number.
10, was it?
Yeah.
Something.
What is it?
I'm just going back. I remember 8 to 10 being till 8 to 10,000, somewhere in there. But it was much more for a
Doubling
special
your
levy.
wasteful spending on a special levy. Just keep that in mind for the future.
Oh, we know. We know.
Okay.
And I was going to say something else. What did you made
Oh,
a
and the last
comment.
thing, before you answer, I'm a school teacher, so I'm paid by tax dollar money, so I'm all in favor of the reciprocity. The mayor probably knows that from my phone calls to him. So do whatever you have to do, in my opinion. The lady who left in the other chair would probably say the opposite, so that was my wife.
I do have a great debate every time.
I will keep working on her hard. So I completely understand what you guys have to do. The last thing is, I really can't understand why the three things, was it Mr. Zern? Whatever he brought up, I really don't get the debate at all. If it's gonna raise revenue, why not just try it out? You can always backtrack. All right.
There again, if there's an upfront cost, do we have the money in the budget to do it? Or do we go into negative spending?
Well, and then
I get that, but
That's-
if he suggested taking out the loan, I get you're gonna have to pay back the loan and pay money out, but in the end result, you're still gonna make money in the end. If it's gonna raise revenue, it's a no-brainer to me.
And I agree, it's a no-brainer except for one thing. We're gonna lose 3 firemen. Do we lose 3 firemen to take out a loan? Or do we keep the 3 firemen?
we're going to lose them anyway.
I don't disagree with you, I would go for the
Okay.
3 firemen. But his ideas are all raising money and a couple people.
No, like I said,
just
they're
can't
well
get that. I
they're
can't
well
wrap my
worth
head
looking
around
into. We just need to do it a
And
lot
he's the
further.
only one I heard bring up any alternatives, so thank you for doing it.
Yeah. This gentleman.
Yeah, Randy Phillips, 1187 East 340th Street. I've heard talk about, no raises, 10 years and all that. Well, if you look at the economy nowadays, that's the way it is throughout the whole country. People are not making more money, they're making less money now. So what I wanted to kind of reiterate to council and the mayor and everybody is, when you're talking about this reciprocity, really, you better use some hard numbers for this because it could be hurting a lot of people out there. There's people that are living on less money than they started out with 10 years ago.
Jim Farowski, 219 Year Review. You use a figure of $300 additional about
Correct.
with the reciprocity. All that $300, I've lived here all my life. I've been a homeowner, paying my taxes for 28 years here. I would much rather have my $300 go directly to Eastlake than a levy be put in. And I don't know if somebody could tell on a levy what, on a $300 increase on a levy, what the city would get, $9 maybe, or less than that then.
Reciprocity versus 9%. Well, like I said, do the math. It's
But-
my 3,300 is 259 the city gets.
But I'm all for it.
Mhm.
I would much rather have the city get $300 directly from me than whittle it through for everything else. Sorry, but I'm tired of paying for schools. I'm just tired, But, and then one other thing with
I get it.
with the 3 things. Mr. Evers said you're looking at 300, or I forget what the figure to start the mayor's court. You're asking her to find out rates on that. Well, you better increase it because if you're saying for 3 of those being 350, well, he said that the mayor's court initial startup is 350. So whatever for the other stuff,
Initial startup back in 2000, I think it was 2008. We looked at it. It was 350 to 500,000.
Right,
Okay.
and then he was saying for 350 for all 3 things for startup, you're gonna have to increase whatever figure she would try to get.
Right.
But as far as reciprocity, I would rather give my $300 directly to the city than funnel it through the county, and we only get $27 or whatever it would be.
Okay.
And you work outside the city.
I work outside the city, and I do work for the city. We aren't doing very good either. So like what Nick's saying, we're not far off. I work for Men Around the Lake, so we're putting Band-Aids on everything everywhere else.
Chris Conrad, 1278 Waverly. I think people are taking this as 2 mutually exclusive ideas, and I don't think that they necessarily need to be, in my opinion. I mean, excuse me, I've always been for the reciprocity for a short amount of time, simply to save the services that are needed. I'm sorry, I'm cold. I've been speaking since 2008 about a rental program, occupancy permit, nuisance abatement laws. If our services are going 10, 15 times for an overdose to the same address, then start charging that address or that landlord like other cities do over 3 times a year. Start recouping some of the costs that you guys are just throwing away. I mean, the 3 ideas are fantastic, and they should have been implemented a long time ago. I don't care if it's $350,000 or $500,000 startup. If you're going to do a reciprocity, don't dump $2 million in this department and $1 million in this department. How about think long term? So we're going to do our absolute basics that we need. Maybe not do this roof right now. Wait for 3 years and pray to God. But take $350,000 and start one of these programs and drop the reciprocity in 2 years. I mean, I just don't think it needs to be one or the other. And I've made it very clear on the Blockwatch site and every other social media site, I've always been for the reciprocity simply because I was there when they implemented it before and when it got rolled back. But Mr. Zerman is thinking outside of the box, like other people did in Citizens Advisory Committee, that could have been implemented then. The occupancy permit adds some teeth to the rental inspection program, because if a landlord doesn't pay these fees, he doesn't get an occupancy permit. It's the same thing you guys other cities do with a bar that becomes a nuisance, and it's in the nuisance abatement laws, and you say, fine, really, you want a liquor permit? Sorry, you're not getting one. Euclid did it, they fought it, and they lost, and the bar is no longer there. But at least you're not dumping services into the same property constantly. And Mr. Zern's right, it's improving the property, it's improving our property values, and if the reciprocity needs to be instituted for short term, I say fine, but I don't want to see it dumped wholeheartedly into each department, because it's just putting a Band-Aid on it. It's all it's doing. And then what Mr. Pledge was talking about, where you're giving something back to the residents, improving their quality of life, you're not doing that, because unless I'm calling police and fire, I'm not using their services, and quite frankly, they don't care. But they care when things bother them, like leaf pickup. They care when they can't take their kids to parks, and their parks look like crap. And that's what they care about. So, I just want to see that if you guys go forward with this, think more long term, and use this as a stepping stone, not just bailing out the departments, which is important. Don't get me wrong, I've always been for you guys and for this reciprocity. But use it as a stepping stone. I think it's important. That's all.
Okay. Mr. Hammercheck.
Sir.
I believe we put you on hold.
Just here as a guest.
Okay.
Todd Vogler, 516 Hell's Court. I'm not opposed to reciprocity. I work outside of the city. I live in the city. I'm not opposed to it. I'm not willing to betray the police department. I'm not willing to betray the fire department. I have very rarely ever needed them, because trust me, if I call the fire department or police, if I call the police department, there's been a felony. But I'm not willing to betray them any longer. With that being said, I've heard council talk about how there is no trust. Okay, going on that tangent that you believe that there's not a trust, so you have nothing to lose, is a fatal error. I'm very social with my residents on my street. It's a cul-de-sac. We all know each other. We all talk to each other. I'm letting you know that these people will become venomous to you if all you do is a Band-Aid without doing anything further. Venomous to you. So I would highly encourage you to pursue other options that were presented today in addition to this tax. It's essentially a tax. And you're going to have to answer the question, okay, I live in the city, I work outside the city, you're going to charge me more. Do I use city services? I don't use city services more, but you're going to charge me more. If you're going to charge me more, you have to pursue additional options as well. I'm not opposed to you taxing me more. I get it, okay? But you gotta pursue additional options as well, or these people are gonna be very angry with you. Very angry. Just throwing it out there.
Okay.
Just one more thing too, because I know that Chris brought it up also. When we did pursue levies, we were actually required to give Carol Ann like a bare bone. That $2 million is what I need. So the bare bone that I gave Carol Ann was $700,000. So just so that you know, and I know that Chief Reich and Nick both did that, we had what we need. When I present that $2 million, this is what I got going on right now. And then when we went to Carol Ann, after what the mayor asked us to do, we gave that. What's the bare bone number? So that represents for the fire department 700, and that I can account for that. That's my 3 people, and that also gives me back my ambulance billing money that allows my guys to train and I can equipment and I can do things like that. And obviously, some of that money that I get in that 400, I can chip away at some of those other $2 million we need. So that's where I stand, and I just want everybody to know that we do have a plan B with Carol Ann as far as reciprocity goes. And I know when Mr. Hagan was talking, when we first brought this up, there was never, ever a discussion about giving one department or just giving the departments. There was recreation discussed. It was, giving the mayor money back in certain line items. So it was spread out across the board of the budget what they were going to do with that money. So I just think that was something that can help clear up with everybody. That's where we're at with that.
Joe D'Ambrosio, 859 Audrey Drive, City of Eastlake. I sat at this table for 10 years, most of you know that. Something that I heard today that did make a lot of sense, and actually Chief Whittington touched on it, is there was a reciprocity done, I believe it was 0.25% in 2002 or 2003. If something was done as far as reciprocity, and I'm just thinking out loud here, say it was put on for a year or 2 years, and Ms. Kraniak actually mentioned this too, and then the other options were looked at, and it was done in conjunction. Maybe in 2 years or a year, whatever, maybe the reciprocity can be rescinded. It's a possibility, but it does give you a fix now. All I'm saying is, don't do what I did. We did options, put one thing on the ballot, they failed. Don't do that. I made a mistake. Don't, you got 2 good options here that can work in conjunction. I would consider those deeply. I think that it could work for the short term and for the long term. Thank you.
Anybody else? Mr. Rubentino.
So I'd also like to comment, in my figure of $1 million, I'm not looking to get $1 million today. I'm just saying that's what I'm looking at in a short-term, 3-year progress, that's approximately where we're going to be. So, and as far as the bringing up the raise issues, and we bring that it's been 10 years. I'm looking at 10 years of guys that have now gone from a department of 40-something employees to 12 handling that entire load. And the stress level, the amount of work that's on those guys, to me, justifies that they are somewhere compensated. If you go and look at the wage scales that this city's employees are making compared to other communities that are our size and that are doing that, they're not even close. They're dead bottom. And these communities are running 40, 50 people. They've got 20, 30 part-time employees helping them through the summer. Bring them out there in the wintertime when they need the extra help. So when you get into that raise issue and say, well, I don't want a guy getting 10, just because he hasn't had a raise in 10 years, there's more than just he hasn't had a raise in 10 years. The workload justifies that somewhere along the line that these employees, and not just guys, but the women, the city as a whole is running at a base scale that is so far below normal wages, somewhere with the amount of work they're putting out there, they're justified. And not just saying, well, we're just giving these people raises. We're going to do reciprocity to give raises. No, you've got to look at the whole structure of it. And these guys and these ladies deserve this. I mean, they have been scratching at the bottom for so long. And I know there's other people out there that don't have that money and aren't making that. But you have to take it as a whole. And you have to go by a wage scale that's set across the board. Nobody in this city is overpaid. They are overworked, and they're out there busting their ass, busting their hind end on a regular
Thank
basis
you.
that maybe the residents don't see, but they are doing it. And that's why I don't like that, just saying we're just giving raises because they haven't had them for 10 years. We're looking for raises because they deserve the raises for the amount of work that they're putting in with all the layoffs and the shortcomings that they've had. I'm done for the night. Thank you.
One more.
Do I have to repeat my name?
Yes.
Jim Grinstead, 139 Christine Court. Yes, Mayor Miga. There are dumb people in the city who think the $2.5 million is all going to go to raises. One of my neighbors actually thinks the vast majority of that money is going to raises. So you actually have to put on paper what you estimate is going to go. And I'm all for the raises. I don't care. You guys need them. I get that. Okay. But you have to put on paper what your estimated, and estimates a wiggly word there. But you've got to let people know how much of that charge
That's
money.
done. I mean, I think so. That's not a task. That's done.
Okay, so where can I see that on paper? Is what
Well, I think
a couple of us have asked.
we
We
can
need
follow up with Carol Ann. We can do that.
Okay. You got to. It's got to be like big front page on Eastlake's website. Like you got to have a click here and see this. Like you got to put it as big as you can because people are stupid. They think 1.25 million or something's going for a raise.
Well, the past mayor in running for election stated that this mayor was coming in here just to give everybody raises. Well, he's been here 3.5 years, and there's a raise out there. So there hasn't been a single raise, but yet they say.
I get you have it, but you have to have a true breakdown
That's
of
fine.
what you intend to spend the money on, because looking around, people are shaking their heads saying, where is it? I don't know what it is. I mean, we have to be able to talk to other people, like, we have to spread the word about what this money's going for, or, like he said, you're gonna have angry people about
And I
what are you
think
doing
that's
with it.
a very good thought, and I think that, again, that's easily done. I mean, easily done.
Thank you.
Carolyn, could you possibly get that up on the website for us? I mean, I'm not asking for it by tomorrow, believe me.
If it's not tomorrow, we'll do it for you.
Okay, thank you. All right, we're way past our 30 minutes. I'm going to allow 2 more people, and we're going to cut it.
Heather Freeman, 1252 East 357th Street. I just want to kind of say that I agree with a lot of the comments I heard here tonight as far as show us where the money's going to go, how you're going to utilize it. I was really moved by Chief's testimony as far as the dire need from the fire department. I think utilize your chiefs to sell this to the residents, and really their passion behind it will show people what the dire need is for these departments. And look at the other 3 options. I mean, we can't just do this Band-Aid. We don't want to see this forever and ever. Like, how are we going to create revenue ongoing? And I don't think that it was fair just to have that 8,600 or whatever, how many people will be affected by the residents. Only a portion of the residents are going to pay for all this to fix it. So this can't be the long-term solution. There's got to be something else that's going to, you can't just have a small portion of your population that's going to give you all this extra, all the money to bring you up to where you need to be and beyond. It's not fair. It needs to be, you raise the whole income tax 2.5% for everybody across the board. Or you just do this short term until you get yourself afloat and figure out how you're going to maintain the services you can provide.
Okay, anybody else? Be the last one.
Angelo Trevisano, 34186 Walker Drive. First, just very impressed by all the residents that came to this meeting and stuck it out for over 2 hours. I mean, this is the longest meeting I've been at. I've been going to like every single one for about 2 years now. And this, I was really impressed to hear some of the ideas put forth by, 3 of the different council members. I really had no idea what I was going to hear tonight when this was referred back to committee at the last council meeting. So I hope that for the council people, for all 7 of you, that you don't just take the opportunity, if you move this forward and do some sort of hybrid, that you don't just pass reciprocity and then shaft all the other plans through some maneuvers of not voting for them, or pushing it into negotiations, because just with my personal experience with the Central Park and trying to make that a better place for residents, we were told, go negotiate with some people, and it was a waste of time. It was an absolute waste of time, and venom, you got some venom, I think. And, I really hate to see that happen either through a charter amendment where both taxes and reciprocity are locked in. But I think, as multiple residents have said over there, you need to show this stuff on paper. A lot of these meetings, especially finance committee meetings that I've been to, are a lot of passion. And it's good to hear, from the chiefs and the directors, like what's going on within their departments, but ultimately you're running a business. This is a municipal corporation. You have $1 million budgets. You have several employees. Things need to be justified on papers with numbers, and they need to be critically viewed. And just for example, at the February budget meeting when the yearly budget was passed, no one really questioned any numbers. I think I asked like 2 questions, and that was it. So I'm glad to see that, Mr. Kucinich expressed skepticism about some of the speculation on the numbers. That's good. I think speculation is very healthy to have, and you need to review it and see are these justified. And I think you should have additional meetings, but there's got to be follow-through. And if there's reports, you need to release them to the public, so we're not spinning our wheels and reinventing, everything from scratch again. So I think this was one of the best meetings that I've ever been to. I think there was a healthy, if not adversarial, discussion at times. But I hope that everyone here at least learned a little bit more about what all these directors and council people have to decide on a daily basis and go through. So that's my only comment.
I guess.
Thank you.
Whenever this question of this Central Park negotiations comes up, that is simply not true. I participated in those discussions with the mayor's assistance and council's assistance. We scheduled multiple meetings, and I personally sat in those meetings with the people from the Croatian Center and probably spent nearly 2 hours discussing those terms. So to give the impression on these minutes to these people in this community that was disingenuous and everybody brushed you off is simply not true. I participated in those meetings, and that's not fair.
Okay, at this point we're going to close the public portion. I'm going to go back again and poll the entire council. Last time we polled, all 7 members were in favor. Mr. Myers, move forward or table it?
Before I give you my answer, I'd like to comment on what some of the members of the public have said. Talking to my residents, I basically get the same concerns from the residents, which is if you're going to move forward with reciprocity, you need to sit down with us, you need to show us where the money's going to go.
Okay, we discussed that in the last finance meeting. We said if we moved it forward, we had 6 weeks to come up with a plan.
Conversation isn't over tonight. We're going to continue to work on this. We're going to make sure that all the money is allocated fairly and first where it's most needed and fairly and obviously not evenly. We talked about putting money in fire and police and service and the administration and our electronics and our recreation. We want to spread this money out evenly and make sure that we are addressing as many needs as we can as quickly as we can. It is an ongoing conversation, but we're at a point where we have to do something. We have to move forward, and we can continue to keep that dialogue open. I hope everybody comes back. I hope this is phenomenal to have this many people here at such a critical juncture in the financial history of our community. It is just, it warms my heart. So, the conversation isn't over. It's going to continue. So, all right, so go ahead.
All I'm saying is I'd like to see it, like I said, I'd like to see the numbers and everything before.
Move forward or table it?
No, table it.
Mr. Spotton.
Spotton. Or Kucinich. Spotton.
Table it. Mr. Kucinich.
Move forward, please.
Mr. Zern.
Table it with a comment. The public's asking for a term limit on what we're talking about, a dollar amount, a budget, and investment in our future. Investment for tomorrow. And unless that's on the table and in black and white, that I can pick it up and read it, and I can every other person's community can read it, table it.
Mayor.
It's yours. Before it comes to me, I mean, I have no vote. I'm not on council.
This is our city. We have to run it as a team.
That. Well, you know that I'm not a proponent of reciprocity, but again, if the 7 of you come about and pass it, I will not veto it.
Okay. Mr. Haeflin.
Move it forward for the 1% reciprocity with also stipulations that we will, aggressively look at all the different things again that can continue to produce revenue for the city. I think that's something that we've always been trying. We've looked at these, the suggestions that Mr. Zern brought to the table. We have all looked at those over the years, even when Mr. D'Ambrosio was on council. These things have been brought up before, but we should continue to do it. But I think what we need to do is we need to do the reciprocity. I say move it forward.
Mr. Pledge.
I say move it forward.
Hold the committee. The committee has voted. They will move forward. To be presented at the next council meeting. In the meantime, we will meet with the finance director and the mayor and the directors and lay out a paper plan as to where the money will be spent. With that,
in a public meeting, I'm sorry to interrupt. You're going to deliver.
We're done. It will move forward for council's vote. Okay? Mayor.
I think you need to answer Mr. Trevisano.
Yeah,
as much as sometimes we don't get along, I think you need to answer that question.
Go ahead.
Everything's going to be open. Everything's always
Mr.
open.
Council. Go ahead. What were you going to say, Mr. Trevisano?
Just the action that you just suggested sounded like something that we need to comply with the open meetings law.
Everything in the city does complies with the open meetings.
There would
Always
be
has.
no violation. There has never been a violation of Ohio sunshine laws here, and there won't be.
We'll schedule it for
And
a
to
finance.
imply that is ridiculous. Ridiculous.
Schedule it for a finance committee meeting. And that's the easiest way to do it.
There have been no secret meetings of this finance committee.